Some of the content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
What if you were a part of the government conducting experiments related to mind control? What if you were doing it for the greater good, even though you knew it was wrong? Now stop for a moment and think, what if you were actually the experiment itself?
All right, basically mine is on Operation Midnight Climax. You guys ever heard of it?
No, but
No.
No, it's not what Dan does every night. But
oh boy.
That's got a different name.
Oh god.
so do you guys remember the MK Ultra project?
Yeah.
I think everybody's pretty familiar. The mind control using LSD, all that stuff. So Operation Midnight Climax was a sub-project of MK Ultra that was started in the 1950s. It was used studying the effects of mind-altering drugs, like such as LSD, as a form of mind control, sexual blackmail, and surveillance technology. So they kind of took it one step further. It was started by scientist Sidney Gottlieb, who worked for the CIA, then placed under the direction of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics in Boston, Massachusetts. CIA safe houses were set up in San Francisco, Marin County, and New York City. And what they would do is they would put prostitutes on CIA payroll. Then they would bring clients back to the safe houses, like in San Francisco, Marin County, and they'd be doped up with drugs like LSD and then monitored through one-way glass. So if you remember, like in Pineapple Express, if you've ever seen that, where I think they're giving him weed in that movie, but they just kind of watched him and saw like how he reacted. That's kind of what they were doing, except for here, they'd bring them back with prostitutes and they would do whatever they do. And then while that's happening, they would be giving them drugs. Basically, the whole point of it is like they were doping them up kind of without them knowing. So it was just like, hey, we're banging, take these drugs. And then these guys behind you are going to kind of watch and see how you're going to react, whatever
reaction. Yeah.
So like the ones in San Francisco were like the quickies. So, hey, we're just going to bang this out real quick. But if you were of like the upper echelon of the society, then you would be in like the New York City one, or Marin County, which is like on the outskirts of San Francisco. So the high class would go there for their high class prostitutes. But anyway, all that aside, the operation was then soon expanded into CIA agents doping random people at bars, restaurants, and beaches. So they would just kind of go out in the town and like say I would tail you two for majority of the day, and then you guys are at the bar, one of you gets up to go to the bathroom. I would dope your drink, wait till you come back, and just watch how you would react after me giving you the drug. So this was like this wasn't people that signed up. This was literally
kind of fucked up.
Yeah, we're gonna do this to the general public and just kind of see what happens.
So what happens? Like, okay, so they taint someone's drink, and they watch them for a little bit, and then the person leaves, and then the cop pulls them over, and they're all fucked up.
Well, then,
that's their
there you go.
Shit out of luck.
and then they didn't even mean to get that fucked up.
Right. Well, I mean, this is the fucking government.
All right.
But and like I said, this is all documented. So yeah.
Fuck.
But so to make it even more fucked up, the CIA was actually found to be doping its own agents. Wow. So they would come back, they would dope them, and then they would go out on fucking surveillance missions or whatever the hell they were doing, and they'd have other agents monitoring what those agents were doing while monitoring other people. It's really just where, there's no line drawn. It's just everybody was fucking everybody.
It just sounds like an office prank that's just gone too far.
Dude. So by 1966, the safe houses in San Francisco and New York were closed, and it just became too much. 1974, journalist Seymour Hersh had exposed the CIA for illegally spying on its own citizens, as well as conducting experiments by administering drugs to non-consenting specimens, which is basically everything that we just talked about. MK Ultra was allegedly shut down completely in 1973 after John Vance of the CIA's Inspector General's office found out about the project and the administration of drugs to unconsenting citizens. Controversy ensues. Everybody's up in arms because now all this shit is brought to light. blah, 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 blah. That's basically the entire gist of what they were doing. They were just doping anybody and everybody, whether you worked for them, to the highest of the elite to the bottom of the barrel fucking junkies, like what, however, there was no limit. This stuff was also used to test stink bombs, itching and sneezing powder, hypnosis, electroshock therapy, diarrhea inducers. So not only were they like administering drugs without people knowing, they were, here, does this diarrhea pill work? Give it to that guy.
Are you no longer constipated?
Yeah, like does this itching powder really work? Throw it in this guy's face. Like it was literally just anything goes. Like while you're banging, hit him with that electroshock. Like they really just kind of had no limits as to what they were doing, and because they were just basically doing it without needing anyone's permission, they just did whatever they wanted. So, the prostitutes weren't really paid with money. They were basically given get out of jail free cards. So if they got busted, then they'd be like, here you go. Oh, okay, cool. Get back on the street until we bust you again.
What was that? What were they? Is it a CIA card? I'm a special agent?
I mean, they don't have pictures of it, but I'm sure kind of like an FOP
something
kind of
I'm
thing.
a prostitute that works with the CIA. Leave me alone.
But
Yeah.
think about it this way, how perfect this is. You don't actually have to give them any money. So you give them a get out of jail free card, then still convince them to do illegal shit so that they get that get out of jail free card back, and then they get busted again, so then they get out, and then they come back to you to do more illegal shit, so they get a get out of jail free card. You're never actually losing anything. You're just saying, nah, it's cool, we'll bail you out next time, even though you're doing shit for us.
But it makes me wonder what was I know you don't have it, but what was the get out of jail free card? What was the author? What was it?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
A CIA
maybe it was
informant?
maybe it was like a phone call kind of thing, like call this person, and then they make it all go away.
Well, that's true.
But
Damn.
so by the time they actually got deep into this investigation, and this was all paper records back in the day, pretty much everything was destroyed. They found like a handful of boxes, but not really anything that anybody could get in a lot of trouble for. No conclusive evidence of anything, and basically it was just a giant embarrassment to the CIA. And it affected the lives of hundreds, if not thousands of people that were all unwilling and had no idea what was really going on. So just another form of how fucked up the government can be and just test shit without people knowing, ruining lives, not only their health, probably
Okay.
their personal, their job.
Let me ask you this. So there's not a whole lot of stuff documented because it was supposedly destroyed.
Right.
How many people came forward and said, yeah, I remember getting fucked up, and I could never explain why.
But it's like, how would you know?
That's a
You
good
know,
point.
like you would have to hear all of this stuff had been so widespread and been going on for so long that like maybe you remember that one instance from 5 years ago, but then you would have to hear about this shit happening and coming to light to even make that connection of like, oh, maybe when I was in that area, that's why this happened from 5 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It makes sense.
I mean, how many times you just, for whatever reason, maybe you have a drink or two and you just really don't feel good.
Right.
Maybe you get kind of sick. Like, you're not going to be like, somebody fucking drugged
Right.
me and
You're just gonna think that you didn't
Yeah.
eat enough maybe that day.
yeah,
you
maybe
got-
it was a dirty tap. Like,
Right.
it could be anything like that.
Right. I would say too. You didn't. I thought you were going to mention it, but we've talked about Jonestown before, and there's conspiracy theories that what's his name, Jim Jones.
Yeah.
He was working with the CIA with MK Ultra, and that they want that whole thing was set up. And again, this is just what the conspiracy theorists say, that it was all set up. To brainwash those 800 people or whatever they
Yeah,
were.
like 800 or 900 people.
That there's some weird shit about Jonestown. How it seemed like the CIA knew, the FBI and the CIA knew that this was going to happen before it even happened. And if you read into that, there's some things that they.
Yeah, and then obviously, everybody dying was just a way of like disposing of.
Yeah, just call one guy crazy and say he did something real bad, and then
Yeah.
all the stuff that would come to light about you is gone.
Is there anything tied in with that in like Waco too?
I've not heard about
that was
Waco.
more of like a cult, though.
Yeah, but so was Jonestown.
Well, Jonestown was definitely a cult.
Yeah, but I've also heard the thing about like CIA or government officials being in contact with Jim Jones.
Yes, and that's what I was saying. But that happened after supposedly MK Ultra was discontinued.
Well,
in
that's the
73.
thing, though, is nobody ever really knows if MK Ultra was actually discontinued, or if
Right.
if it stopped. Like they're like, oh, like even if you look online, it'll say like MK Ultra ended in '64, and then it's like, well, it officially ended in '73, and then it's like, no one really knows if it officially ended.
I don't know where I sit on this one. It's weird. It's hard to believe something like that could happen from your own government, but then
Not really, though.
I
mean,
absolutely believe it. I absolutely, especially in the 60s and 70s, they were a hell of a lot more corrupt then than I think they are now.
Yeah, but I think like also too, if you really wanted to get people out on like drugs and stuff, well then again, like you're only going to attract a certain kind of person, so it does make sense to kind of put it in the wild and see what happens too, and like just people that would normally not do those things.
I'd be curious to what the actual results were, like all the stuff that was destroyed. Like, did they actually make headway? Like, oh, some of these drugs actually
Worked.
Well, what was the goal too? Like, what was the real goal?
It was really just to understand, like, what things were possible as far as like it said, hypnosis, mind control. Even I don't know if they use the term mind control loosely, where it's kind of like the power of persuasion.
Sure. No, yeah.
It's easier if you're under the influence of, like, let's be realistic. If
Truth
I
com-
get
truth
fucked
serum.
up,
Yeah.
well, not even that. If I get fucked up, and you want me to do something really stupid, I'm gonna be more apt to do it if I'm drunk.
Oh,
Right,
no,
right.
We
Like,
went to Canada a few times.
yeah, it's like, but yeah, like the whole sodium pentothal thing, like the truth serum. Does it really work, or does it work because you think that it works? Like the whole placebo effect.
Sure.
Oh shit, I was injected with this. Now I have to tell the truth. It's like, well, do you? Does it trigger
Yeah.
something in your brain that releases you just to be more easily persuaded? I don't know.
So you're of the impression that this is for sure thing.
Oh, I think it absolutely happened. I don't know to what extent, and if actually some of the stuff that was found out in here might still be in use today. Like, we don't know.
What about you?
I absolutely think it. I think the CIA is able to do whatever they want. Remember, we're all just numbers. We're not people to the government. We're numbers.
I think.
And
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I think absolutely that they would, if they have the doctors, they have the technology, they have the funding, they can do whatever the hell they want, and I think get away with it. At least, especially back then.
Well,
I think like one of the biggest things that this also, and like when I say prove, I use the term loosely because they don't have all this documented evidence, but I think just showing that back in this time where they were able to just dope people with different kinds of drugs and any whatever substances kind of is come not full circle, but has become so overblown now in our generation with like the whole opioid epidemic.
Well, yeah.
Where people are saying
Yeah.
it's like it's perpetuated by our government filling like the streets with X amount of drugs, or making it easier for cartels to kind of do whatever they need to do.
or even giving people excuses to take medicine. Think about like you go to like behavioral or
Like no one is
mental
told,
illness medicine. Like nowadays it's like before when back then, it's just weird. Is like back then no such thing as like what's it called, autism. Your kid didn't get spanked enough. Now people are like, no, my kid's autistic. Give him a pill. Give him this medicine. My kid has ADHD, ADD, all these like psycho, like cognitive disorders that now everyone's just like, all right, give him this pill. And I think like even that was like a way of getting people to be more comfortable taking medicine, whereas before, like you only took medicine if you absolutely have to. Now people take a medication for almost anything.
right, and it's so easily available.
Right.
Like, and I mean, obviously not shit like that, but like you can't go to CVS and be like, give me some Xanax.
No, but if you say like, oh, I'm obsessive, I can't stop. Every day I have to make sure that this, and this, and this is done before I can leave the house. Then okay, well here's a medication for that to kind of chill you out.
Right. I think I mean it more like if they were able to put drugs with this slipping it into people enough to monitor it, like what's to say that they couldn't just be pushing all these drugs on people that are ODing on heroin and like
Sure.
Oxycontin, like all of that shit.
And remember, we did that Polybius story with the video game. Now, granted, that was never verified that happened, or was it? It was never said it happened, but no one ever said it didn't happen.
Right.
But that would be a great idea for the CIA. Remember the
the whole training thing.
On the video games. So you get away with anything.
Yeah. And is it a form of population control too? Like, are we just weeding out people that are just...
Well, we're at least weeding out of people in Cuyahoga County, that's for sure.
I think it's more than just here. I mean, it's definitely bad here, which is so weird that, like, this is the focal point of it. But, I think it's more than just here, but it feels like that it's the center of that universe. But pretty interesting.
That's it. I don't know. Did you guys have anything else? That was kind of it.
All right, we'll see you next week.